Stave churches. They're majestic church buildings that made using wooden poles a structure where not a single metal nail is used. They originate from when Christianity was first brought to Norway, and therefore many of them has a mix of Viking and Christian motifs such as sculptures, carvings and painting. There used to be over 1,000 of these scattered around Norway, some even say more than 2,000, but today there's only 28 of them left. As we got 2 weeks of vacation, we decided to be setting out on a road trip around the southern part of Norway to visit as many of them as we can.
Sunshine, I want rain, I want love, I want the pain. Cheer me up, go say my name, cause it don't feel the same. When you're not around, the feelings come out. I wish I could say that I figured it out. Got my head in the clouds when I'm feeling down. Now that I know I can figure this out. Little towns gonna take off, lost and found, that's what we are. City lights in plastic cars, tiny people, giant stars. We don't care about what we find, we just need each other's time. Young and reckless by design, I find my peace of mind. Cause I don't wanna keep on waiting till our patience is fading. I'm recreating all the memories with you. You could say I'm crazy, maybe, but it's on the daily. You take me to the stars and space, see, the world comes back around. And little towns gonna take off, lost and found, that's what we are. City lights in plastic cars, tiny people, giant stars. We don't care about what we find, we just need each other's time. Young and reckless by design, I find my peace of mind. I don't know what to say.
Good morning. We stayed overnight at a pit stop 40 minutes away from Notodden. Nothing special, but it was a running river there, so we had a nice dip in the morning now and feel refreshed and on the road again. Now we drove to Notodden, so right now we're parked right by Heddal Stavkirke, and we'll continue on to Flesberg Stavkirke next, which is an hour away. Heddal is the largest still remaining Stavkirke, being 26 meters tall and 20 meters long. It was built in the first part of the 1200 and has the design of what I always imagined stave churches looked like, with a bunch of crosses, dragon heads and a very noticeable stave structure. After a quick breakfast, we continued on to Flesberg Stavkirke, which dates back to around the 1150s. In 1745, a lot of the original church was removed and remade with horizontal log structure, making it look more like a normal church rather than a stave church. Only 3 outer walls survived, but decorative paintings and interior from the Middle Ages are still intact. Another 30 minutes away from Flesberg lays Rollag Stavkirke, which is said to be from the second half of the 12th century, but not much of the original church is left after it was rebuilt into a cruciform church around 1660. Pretty, nevertheless. Another short drive away and you get to Nore Stavkirke, with its carvings of leaf vines, dragons and lions, and is said to be from around the late 1100s. This was probably my favorite of the day just because of how simple yet majestic it looked. The final church of the day was Uvdal Stavkirke, that's from the end of the 12th century. It's a church that is situated amongst beautiful nature and buildings that look to be built in somewhat of the same style as a stave church. The next day we started off with Torpo, which is a narrow but tall stave church which is said to be from around 1160. Out of all of the stave churches that we visited on this trip, this one had the most interesting doorframe of all of them, with its carving and metal hinges. Just a 15-minute drive away and you'll find the new Gul Stavkirke. It was built around 1980 as a replica of the original Gul Stavkirke, which was packed down at the year of 1880 and re-erected near Oslo with its original 1200 look. So what's your favorite so far?
Oh, that's very complicated to answer. First day, Eidsborg was definitely the best one. The location-wise and how cute in general it looked. From yesterday, well, Heddal, I mean, that's just everyone's favorite, I guess. But I think I prefer this one over Heddal. Just because it's calmer, cozier. And maybe because we actually got to, you know, somewhat step in closer to it. Because Heddal kind of felt a little bit too touristic. It's like you have to see type of object, but, you know, in a sense, a little bit too commercialized.
So we need to go to Oslo. Get the real one.
It's a good idea. We have a good idea of what it is. Though the one we saw before, the Torp, still has my favorite doorway. I mean, you freaking, like, I know that these are not, you know, Viking churches, but when we were at Torp, it just kind of feels like you step through the entryway and you freaking end up in Valhalla. Viggo, come. Sit. 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 Viggo, sit. Viggo. Viggo, bli. Bli. Viggo. Viggo, sit.
We also made a quick stop in Nesbyen, which holds the record for the warmest day in Norway, once reaching nearly 36 degrees Celsius. Continuing driving east through a small and bumpy road, we get to Hedalen Stavkirke, which dates back to around 1160s. That day we spent the night at a camping site to have a place to charge the batteries, refill the water tank, and have a dip in the running river.
I know too much, but now it's never too much. Because when push comes to shove, girl, just trust I won't get sick of us. You
The first church of the day was Reinli, which is a very impressive church which dates back to around 1320s. It's the only surviving stave church where the nave and altar is the same width, giving it a unique rectangular look. This church really should be on everyone's to-visit list.
Saltine and ginger ale, that shit will never fail. I keep it tucked on my body cause I don't feel well. Girl, tell me something else. Saltine and ginger ale, that shit will never fail.
At the top of a hill in Lillehammer lays Garmo Stavkirke. It was built in the early 1200s and originally standing in Lom, where it stood until 1880. It was then later re-erected here in 1921 with its original materials. One church that really surprised us was Ringebu and its surrounding graveyard. It dates back to around 1220s with its red tower, later added during renovation in the 17th century. It really is a massive church, and no photos or videos does it justice, including this one. What's the one thing that Norwegians are the most proud of? So today we're camping just by the road. It's a very nice place where you got benches, you got a bathroom over there, and you got the running river here, so it's kind of the perfect spot.
No, it's never too much.
Good morning. So yeah, it was a very nice spot, and we're heading off to Molde, so there will be not a single church today. It's the 5th day now.
Yes.
It's gonna be the first day without a church. Good morning. Today we will not take the RV. We're staying in a tiny town outside of Molde called Kleive. And we're gonna steal Edita's parents' electrical car.
Just for a day.
Yeah, it's a bit awkward that we're matching. We picked the same.
Awkward.
We picked the same wardrobe today. But 100% not intentional. Now we're off to Grip. So where are we?
On a boat. In Kristiansand, we're on a boat and we're going to Grip. It's a tiny ass island that apparently nobody lives in anymore because it became unsustainable to live there. But we just taking the boat there to enjoy a little bit of the nature and to see a stave church.
Can't keep my head above water with everything that's going on. Can't help but feeling like I'm falling. Cause if it's normal, I feel wrong. Being drunk don't feel the same in a daydream, feeling all alone. I hate me faking all the things I know, and I just want I need a break from taking breaks. I hear the birds outside, oh man, I stayed up late. Nothing even matters, wasted on my shots. My ace AC broke and it's getting way too hot. Now lately I don't even know the day. Now it takes my everything to feel okay. Can't keep my head above water with everything that's going on. I can't keep up feeling like I'm falling, 'cause if it's normal I feel wrong. Being drunk don't feel the same in a daydream, feeling all alone. I hate me faking all the things I know, and I just wanna go. I'm feeling negative about the way it is. My expectations second guess what my perspective is. Nothing even matters, it's not worth the fight. Wearing the same shirt I slept in last night. Now lately I don't even know the day. Now it takes my everything to feel okay. Can't keep my head above water with everything that's going on. I can't keep up feeling like I'm falling, 'cause if it's normal I feel wrong. Being drunk don't feel the same in a daydream, feeling all alone. I hate me faking all the things I know, and I just wanna go.
The next day we went to visit the massive Lom Stavkirke, which dates back to around 1150s. The building is very majestic, with its many angles and shapes, together with a bunch of dragon heads, crosses and walls made of what looks like dragon scales. We then found a quiet rest stop to have a little picnic and a quick dip in the water before continuing on our journey.
Gonna lose my shoe.
Heddal Stavkirke dates back to around 1216 and is situated right next to a farm. We didn't get to go inside, but it's supposed to have runic inscriptions written on one of the staves. An original soapstone baptismal fountain from the 1100 is still supposed to be there. A 20-minute drive and you get to Lomen Stavkirke, which dates back to the end of 1100s. It's a church with a lot of character, surrounded by a small graveyard. Another short drive away and you get to Høre Stavkirke, which is said to be from around 1100 but later rebuilt in the 19th century. Now to my personal favorite of the whole trip, Øye Stavkirke.
Cutest little church. Aww. It's a church for Viggo.
It's said to be built towards the end of the 1100, but it wasn't found before work had to be done on the foundation of the new church in Øye in 1930s. They then found 156 pieces of the original Stavkirke laying under the church floor. It was then consecrated in 1965. Now we'll be driving the cheap version of Tovstigen. It's a road that I've been dreading for a little while because it's so skinny, so long, and so...
High chance of dying.
Yeah. Really don't want to get anyone.
Serious. And I'm not even the one driving.
I don't see anything coming up. I'm just hoping for the best as I'm doing a turn. Okay, good. Oh, and a car. 2 cars. 2 Teslas. There's no railing. What?
Don't say that. That's scary.
RV is approaching.
Yes.
Okay, he's smart.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd recommend waiting for the boat instead if anyone else is planning to take this route, as it's such a narrow and long road with a lot of turns and dark tunnels. We then reached Urnes. It's from around 1130s and is listed in UNESCO's World Heritage List as the oldest still remaining stave church. It's also supposed to be the most decorated stave church, with highly decorated staves that form the framework, carvings and figures from the 12th century. So we just finished looking at Urnes Stavkirke, which is the oldest stave church. And now we are waiting for the ferry to board on to go towards Kaupanger Stavkirke. Anything to add?
Can't you see it's the weight of the world you tried to keep it wrapped up tight, leave it behind.
Kaupanger Stavkirke is built entirely out of pine from the local forest, which is held up by a whopping 22 staves. It originates from 1140 and has since been in continuous use as a parish church even today. Hopperstad Stavkirke dates back to around 1130s, and even though it was restored in around 1890, that's one of the better preserved altar superstructures. There was an entrance fee to get on the graveyard, but it included an impressive guided tour through the inside of the church. So it was definitely worth it, but sadly I wasn't allowed to film inside. We just finished the rest stop at Gudvangen near Norway's. Now we're driving into Undredal to Europe's smallest church still in use, and that's also a stave church, so it's gonna be tiny if it's smaller than Øye. It's gonna be really tiny. There it is.
Tiny.
Very tiny.
A little bit weak on my knees. Instantly.
I carry you.
Now I know how much you hate me.
Wait, please slow down.
We're now driving into Tunnel, which is supposed to be a 25 kilometers long tunnel, and making it the world's largest road tunnel, cars. So we will be in here for quite a while. So yeah, we're halfway in, and it's roadworks. We gotta wait here for 25 minutes for them to finish whatever they're doing here before we can pass.
And then the same on the way back.
Yeah, we're driving this one back as well. Fuck. We had to drive through the tunnel only because we forgot to stop by Borgund on the way earlier, though it was an experience in itself. Borgund is said to be the best preserved stave church still standing. It was built in the late 1100s and has been the model for restoration of other churches such as Hopperstad, Fantoft and Gol. So for this church they charge an entrance fee just to enter the cemetery, so gotta be a little bit creative to climb up on the neighboring field.
Told me that it was just a bad.
A 16-minute drive away from Bergen Centrum lays Fantoft. It was originally built in the late 1100s in a location 300 kilometers away from Bergen, but like many other stave churches was packed away. It was then later re-erected here. Sadly, the original stave church was burnt down in 1992, where credit is given to a black metal artist, which was convicted of burning down 3 other churches and a fatal stabbing in the same period. It's no longer on the list of original stave churches, and therefore only another replica, but it's truly a sight to be seen. So in total, throughout our 2-week vacation and a total of 28 stave churches spread around the southern part of Norway to be seen, we managed to see 25 original stave churches together with 2 replicas. At a later time we'll definitely have to stop by Trondheim, Oslo and Høyord to see the final 3, but I'd say it was time well spent. Anyways, thanks for watching and have a good one.